But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
That's the familiar sound of the school bell ringing to let you know that class is in session. Listen up, class. Let your parents know that the place to shop for your back-to-school essentials is the TDC Home and Building Depot in St. Kitts and City Drugstore Nevis Limited. Get up to 30% off backpacks, notebooks, pens, pencils, school bundles, printers, and more. And while they're there, be sure to have them ask about the tech tools for teachers so we can help you achieve even more success. And remind them about Flash Sale Fridays, when you can receive even more savings just in time for the new school year. Now you know. See you at TDC Home and Building Depot and City Drugstore Nevis Limited. Class is now dismissed. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's back time for Budger's Hardware Hustle. That's right, buy any 2 gallons of Budger paint from participating hardware stores for a chance to win a shopping spree in a hardware store valued at $1,000. Visit BudgerPaintsCaribbean.com on how you can enter. Promotion ends August 31st. See Budger Caribbean on Facebook and Instagram for details. Yes! Budger, for lasting beauty and protection.
Need some extra cash to make your summer dreams come true? Look no further than TDC Financial Services Live Your Dream this summer loan promotion. With up to $65,000 unsecured and up to 8 years to repay, our summer loan promotion is your ticket to that dream vacation, home renovation, or anything else your heart desires. Applying is easy, so why wait? Take advantage of TDC Financial Services Live Your Dream this summer loan promotion today and make this summer one to remember.
People make the world go
Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Inside the News. I am German Abel, once again sitting in today. Yes, it's Saturday, so we will be discussing issues that made the news for the better part of this week, and it was a very busy week here in St. Kitts and Nevis and across the world and the region by an extent. Yes, so we'll dive deeper into those issues. You can call and share your thoughts as we discuss critical issues impacting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And as we know, the major issue impacting us in the Federation actually is the issue of crime and violence, which continues to be the hot topic being talked about as the government and the police work to combat the growing scourge impacting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Nevertheless, it's Saturday. It's a very warm day on the outside. Everybody's out and about doing their thing. Yes. Let us jump into what we're discussing this morning. Earlier this week, the police force, many of you would have heard a lot from the police force regarding their initiatives to combat the fight against crime and violence. Yes. And they outlined the commissioner of police outlined some of his plans and some of what they've been doing and the successes that they have made. We heard this week that out of the 25 homicides, and yes, it's 25 homicides that we've had for the year and not 26. I know some people have been criticizing the media for reporting 25 instead of 26, and some political organizations have been running with the 26 number. But in fact, it is 25 homicides that we would have recorded for 2024. And based on that number, the police indicated to the media and by extension the country that they have solved or at least brought the perpetrators before the courts or at least charged them in 11 of those homicides for the year. And this morning, or yesterday rather, we saw another homicide another individual being charged for homicide here in St. Kitts and Nevis, while the police continue with their stop and searches.
People make the world go
Yes, so that's where we will begin our discussions this morning as we continue to dive deeper into the issues facing us here in St. Kitts and Nevis surrounding crime and violence, and the successes and possible other initiatives that can be put in place to combat the growing scourge that we are dealing with here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we'll hear a little bit from the Commissioner of Police, Mr. James Sutton, in terms of the approach that the police force would have been taking regarding the issue of crime and violence here in the Federation. Yes, concerning crime and violence. But what more can we do? We've been seeing them this week indicating that they're clamping down on or enforcing the issue of teens, juveniles, being out and about late into the evening hours. That law is already on the books here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So they will be seeking to enforce that and hold parents accountable for having their children out and about for quite some time. I mean, why do we have children, at least juveniles, teens, walking after, parading around town after 9-10 in the evening unaccompanied? It's somewhat baffling to many in terms of why that is, but the police are clamping down on that. Other territories are also moving to combat the issue of crime and violence by taking that same approach, and the government is now getting involved in putting their feet down on that. Additionally, they've been finding more weapons during the stop and searches and ammunition. And one other thing that has been talked about, and the question was also asked about it at the press conference, is the number of instances where drugs are being found in the Federation, or whether or not St. Kitts and Nevis is becoming the hotspot now for smuggling of cocaine. And they've been an Assistant Commissioner of Police with responsibility for operations. He said St. Kitts, based on the evidence that they have, St. Kitts and Nevis is not becoming a transshipment point. So we'll take a look at all of that and more as we continue here on Inside the News.
People make the world go
sorry about that. Just a little bit of technical challenges there in terms of the audio that we are going to be playing, but we're going to get it right for you this morning. But yes, so we're continuing with the discussion surrounding crime and violence. The last time we were here, or I was on last time I was on the radio, we talked about the issue of what was transpiring in neighboring Antigua and Barbuda. And during this week, we saw Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister, Gaston Browne, engaging the gang members from several of the gangs, and they're seemingly very young, they're youths, and he engaged them with the notion or idea of coming to a solution to the ongoing issue of crime and violence that's impacting that country as that territory as well. Unlike in St. Kitts and Nevis, he's going to the root of the problem, which is engaging with the young people to find out and get a better understanding of what are their needs, what's impacting them, how can they come to an agreement in ending this issue of violence, because Antigua and Barbuda was at one point the area or territory that most people reference when they talk about dealing with crime and violence. Yes, dealing with crime and violence, because they basically had minimum numbers of homicides and robberies and so forth. So now they're also seeing this issue. Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister recently referenced the issues that they're facing as well, and he's looking to go to the grassroots to get to the bottom of what is causing this problem in his country. Guyana likewise, and Jamaica. So it's an issue that is plaguing the entire Caribbean region. But now I want to let you hear exactly what the Commissioner of Police had to say earlier this week, and then we'll continue our conversation.
Good afternoon, members of the press, citizens at home and abroad. I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon as we seek to address you on matters of grave concern that affects all of us. That is, the alarming increase in gun violence that has plagued our community. This is not a matter for statistics or report. It is about the safety and well-being of our citizens, of the peace of our neighborhood, and the future of our children. Over the past few weeks, we have seen a troubling rise in gun violence. These acts of violence not only claim lives, but have had a serious effect on the sense and the fear on our citizens. We feel your pain and we can see your tears. We will alleviate them. We hear you loud and clear, and we crave your indulgence as we seek to bring peace and security to you. But we cannot do it by ourselves. We have to work together. This situation is unacceptable. No one should live in fear in his or her own community. Our primary responsibility as law enforcement is to ensure the safety and security of everyone. We, as a police force, want to ensure you, the public, that we are fully committed to address these concerns. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force intends to use our 7 priority areas to address these issues. These 7 priority areas are: 1, enhanced crime prevention initiative; 2, community policing; 3, road safety. 4, human resource development. 5, better use of technology. 6, ongoing collaboration with other agencies and evidence-based policing. On the Enhanced Crime Prevention Initiative, we will continue our deployment of our foot and mobile patrols in known hotspots to increase our visibility. We have also conducted a number of house searches and vehicle checkpoints in an effort to recover illegal firearms. We have received some successes, but there are many firearms out there. What we have realized is that a number of citizens are assisting the known criminals by holding and securing these illegal items. What I can say to you who are assisting these criminals, we are coming for you. As school about to resume in September, we thought it necessary to reinstate all school liaison officers in the various schools. It is important to have positive role model in the schools. Children are our future leaders. We also continue to support neighborhood watches because it's imperative that we know who are traversing in the various neighborhoods. I want to encourage and implore parents to take a more serious responsibility in parenting your children. You are responsible for your children. Know where your children are. Know your children associates and know what your children are bringing into your home. You will be held accountable for all illegal activity in your premises. On the community policing, we believe that strengthening community partnership is imperative. As I've said, fighting crime cannot be done in silo. I want to take this time to welcome the support by the government with the initiative that they took to convene the consultation on crime and violence as a public health issue. If we are to address crime, we must be able to identify the core causes of crimes. So I'm looking forward to have further consultation on this topic. We will continue to support the mechanism to inform families who have made reports to the police to keep them updated. It is important for the communication lines to be continued to relay information. We also continue to apprise the public with the dissemination of information on things that the police are doing on the various platforms. As we look at road safety, we continue to enhance traffic enforcement regulations. We will apply a zero tolerance to dark tinting. It has caused, we have seen a number of incidents where dark tinting were used to commit crime. It is an offense, and we must enforce the law accordingly. We will continue to educate the motoring public on road safety measures. We will intend to introduce a number of measures to reduce speeding, which is a major contributor for accidents. Under human resource development, we will continue to build out the capacity building of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. As things changes, we will have to adapt to some of these changes, but we also will introduce a number of policies of things that are happening around us. For example, we introduced a media policy with regard to the police force and a policy to deal with the smoking of marijuana. It's important because these are topics that are happening. We want to commend the government at this time as well for a number of amendments that were introduced to assist us in our enforcement. Amendments such as the Firearm Amendment Act, the Justice Interference Prevention Act, the Offense Against the Persons Act, and others. We will continue to impress upon our staff to be cordial when dealing with the public, because we have had several reports about unprofessional behavior with regard to police and community. We cannot work by ourselves. When it comes to better use of technology, we are going to use whatever resources are available to us. We have just reached out to the cable company to assist us with our CCTV program. We want to encourage persons who have installed surveillance footage cameras in their premises to keep them updated. Many of the times when we do reach out to persons who have surveillance cameras, the cameras are not working. So I would like to take this opportunity to encourage persons to seek to have their surveillance cameras updated. With regard to ongoing collaboration with other agencies, we meet on a regular basis with the different agencies, because we have to work collectively if we are to tackle crime. We have reached out to the customs during this meeting and asked them to strengthen the enforcement on things at the border as well as immigration. We have reached out to the prison to increase their security in and around the prison, just to name a few. We have also reached out to other government departments in the removal of abandoned buildings and derelict vehicles. With regard to evidence-based policing, we have been sharing our statistic quite quarterly with the members of the public, because we want to keep the public abreast of what we are doing. We continue to monitor criminals both in our surroundings, because it's important to be proactive in our policing initiative.
People make the world go.
Well, there you had it. That was the Commissioner of Police giving his overview in terms of what they've been doing in terms of the crime fighting initiatives here in St. Kitts and Nevis. That was his latest update a few days ago at the press conference. But the broader question is, are those initiatives going far enough? Are they far-reaching? Are they getting to the root cause of the crime problem that we're facing here in St. Kitts and Nevis? But, you know, it's a talk that will continue from now until we get the problem under control. But we have to acknowledge our partners at this time who make the first half of the program possible, at least. And then we'll come right back and continue with more Inside the News.
That's the familiar sound of the school bell ringing to let you know that class is in session. Listen up, class. Let your parents know that the place to shop for your back-to-school essentials is the TDC Home and Building Depot in St. Kitts and City Drugstore Nevis Limited. Get up to 30% off backpacks, notebooks, pens, pencils, school bundles, printers, and more. And while they're there, be sure to have them ask about the tech tools for teachers so we can help you achieve even more success. And remind them about Flash Sale Fridays, when you can receive even more savings just in time for the new school year. Now you know. See you at TDC Home and Building Depot and City Drugstore Nevis Limited. Class is now dismissed. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
And we are back here on Inside the News. We're taking a look this morning, at least for the first half of the program, in terms of the crime fighting initiatives that the police force has instituted, and they provided an update in terms of the crime fighting initiatives that they've been undertaking here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We'll now hear from Assistant Commissioner of Police Travis Rogers, who spoke about concerns regarding the possibility that St. Kitts and Nevis is slowly becoming a transshipment point for cocaine. Is a police force suspecting that St. Kitts and Nevis is slowly becoming a transshipment point for cocaine? One, and two, how is this affecting your crime fighting strategy?
Okay, good afternoon to the listening public. I am Assistant Commissioner Travis Rogers, responsible for operations, and I'm grateful for your question. Evidence to the contrary, I am not seeing that St. Kitts is slowly becoming a transshipment point at this time. I can only speak from the evidence that presented. You spoke about that cocaine in New Guinea. Yes, some of the cocaine was delivered. The other portion was destined for other places. That was delivered, we were able to seize it, and that was supposed to be taken to other places, we were able to seize it. That from St. Vincent, that was not washed ashore. Both wasn't washed ashore, they were on vessels. One was on a yacht at New Guinea, and the other was on a cargo vessel that brought commodities for St. Kitts, yes. That cocaine, again, was not destined for St. Kitts. I think you're speaking about the 800 kilos, right? Yes, that was not destined for St. Kitts. It was for onward movements. But because of working closely with other agencies around the region, which is critical and important, we were able to get that necessary information and conduct a search, and we were successful in doing so.
What's this impacting your strategy, your crime fighting strategy?
Because it's not a transshipment point, I mean, we're hearing that maybe one or two of the murders may be connected with cocaine. We don't have all the evidence that prove that is so, all right? Because the killings are mostly gang-related. So with the absence of that evidence to prove that the cocaine is propelling the violence, I would just keep it at that. But the violent crime unit and our investigative wings are doing the best they can. And if we get any information that the cocaine is forming part and parcel of the murders, then we would pursue in that area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, there you had it. That was Assistant Commissioner of Police Travis Rogers there. So the fight against crime and violence in St. Kitts and Nevis has become a broad-based issue, which is not just impacting the homicides, but the law enforcement agencies as much as they come in for heavy criticism in terms of not necessarily combating or reducing the number of homicides that are occurring in St. Kitts and Nevis. One of the things that we have found is that they're very, very much stretched in terms of having to deal with all of these issues. And then now a lot of the officers themselves are not necessarily going to get that time off to rest because of the spike in crime and violence that we're seeing here. So you have those that are dealing with the homicides, those that have to go out and do patrols. Then you have those that are dealing with the investigations themselves. So the officers are stretched. So it's a multifaceted approach. That is why when we hear this call for an all-of-society approach to tackle the crime problem, people underestimate what that means. It simply means that we as a society have to be able to do our part in fighting the scourge of violence that we're seeing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's easy for us to say that we didn't see anything, but equally, we see things and we turn a blind eye. For safety reasons, I understand that, but at the same time, where do we begin to draw the line to say, I live here and this is my society and I want to raise my kids in a safe and sound environment? I'm not getting that coming from a lot of people in terms of the fight against crime and violence. We've accepted that this is what it is, and we're going to continue to let this be the status quo for all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I don't like to sound like I'm raising alarm bells, but it will have some serious repercussions for all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis if we continue at the rate that the crime and violence has been occurring. Because at the end of the day, we can be flagged by the international agencies. We can be given a hard time when we travel across the region and internationally as well. You know, they look at you with more stringent measures when you're coming through the borders and so forth. So let us as a society accept that this is what is happening and we have a role to play in terms of dealing with this issue as well. Another issue that came up earlier this week was, and this is part of the criticism that the police force has been receiving in recent months. Recently there was a post that the police force responded to regarding discipline of officers within the rank and file of the police force, because allegations were made against a particular officer in terms of a serious allegation, rather. I really don't want to give credence to it, but an allegation was made against a particular police officer, and the police force was forced to issue a press statement addressing it and denying that that was the case. But then, as you dive deeper into it, there's further concerns that the police themselves are not necessarily holding the officers within the force to a high standard. But the deputy commissioner, he denied that that's the case, and he did say, along with the commissioner, that a number of police officers have been dragged before the professional standards department within the police force, and that in and of itself is something that they've been commending the public for, because they've received the complaints and they continue to do and carry out their investigations. Only problem is that at the time they could not give statistics in terms of how many officers were disciplined and so forth, but it is all part of holding officers within the police force accountable for their actions. As we heard recently, that the officer who was involved in the Brian Packett incident, he is now before the courts, and he would likely, his trial is actually going to be in September. He is on I suspect a manslaughter charge or something of that nature, but it's going to be coming up in the September assizes, according to the police force. So they're holding their officers accountable, and they want the public to be reassured that they're not sweeping any of it under the carpet, because they want to begin to regain the trust of the public when it comes to holding officers accountable and ensuring that the same level of justice that is meted out to perpetrators of crimes in St. Kitts and Nevis, the general public, they're also holding the officers to the same level. So I just want you to hear what the deputy commissioner had to say about that particularly. Mr. Commissioner, you mentioned the unprofessional conduct of some of the officers. Can you go into a bit more details surrounding what do you guys describe as unprofessional conduct and the level of reports that you would have received? And this comes against the backdrop of public criticism that the police force is not doing enough to rope in some of the conduct of its officers, and also the fact that the public is also complaining that officers themselves, the police force, is not necessarily disciplining the officers, and you guys are not reporting that information to the public. Also, on the same question, there is some concern as well, because the public is very much concerned about the conduct of officers, that trust is lost. The trust has been eroded in the police force because of this quote-unquote, the fact that the police are not necessarily reporting the conduct of officers. How is the police force working to regain this trust in the public?
Okay, if I may begin with the first question about how we are dealing with misconduct and professionalism. I think by now the public should be aware that we have a professional standards department, the Office of Professional Standard. And that standard, that unit is specifically, its specific purpose is to hold officers to account for their behavior. We have a disciplinary code. We have the police regulations, which sets out the standards, the conduct that is expected of police officers. Whenever police officers operate below those standards and members of the public are aggrieved as a result, they are required to report it, because that is the only way that we will become aware of the behavior. And once a report is made, that report is investigated and the appropriate disciplinary action is taken. All of us here at the head table are trial officers, and we have been trying matters almost on a weekly basis. In fact, I think we have trials scheduled for next week, Wednesday, for sergeants. So from police sergeants go down, they are tried by us at these disciplinary areas. And once officers are found guilty, the appropriate sentence based on the conduct is meted out.
Okay, if you indulge me for a quick follow-up question. In terms of, a quick follow-up on that, in terms of the level of quote-unquote misconduct cases that will have been reported to the police force, let's say for 2023, do you have those statistics?
Unfortunately, I don't have the statistic with me, but I could provide you with those, because we have to keep those statistics. I don't have them with me at this time, so I don't want to quote the wrong figures, but I could promise you if you follow up with me, I could get you those figures. But I could assure you that we do investigate every report that is made, and it is dealt with based on the outcome of the investigation. What we find a lot of times is that persons would make report, but they're not willing to follow through when an investigator approaches them to have a statement, because it's okay to come and say, Officer X do me X, Y, Z, or Officer X did X, Y, Z. But you have to be willing to document that. Put your report in the form of a statement and sign to it. And a lot of times when we ask persons to do that, they're not willing to do that. And we have to be fair to the officers. We cannot just penalize an officer just on the report of a member of the public. It has to be investigated, and they need to have due process. The officer must be given a chance to defend himself against the allegation, just as a criminal is given due process to defend against any allegation of crime against him. Officers must be given the same due process to defend against any allegation of misconduct made against him. He must be given a fair hearing. He must be given a right to have an attorney to represent him, and he must be able to question his accuser. And so we go through a process similar to what happens in the court, and if the officer is found guilty, the appropriate disciplinary sentence is meted out.
Building the trust back, looking at.
That is one way of building trust. We show the community that we are not sweeping things under the rug. If you complain to us that an officer did you wrong, and it is verified, it is proven, then the officer is dealt with appropriately. So that is one way of building trust, not sweeping reports or complaints under the table and following up and to the satisfaction of the person who is aggrieved. Apart from that, we have several community outreach initiatives. We have a national intervention unit that is responsible for most of our community policing activities. They have programs in the schools, and in addition to meeting the children in schools, they meet with parents. Once they would have identified certain behavior in children in school, they would reach out to the parents. That is a form of building trust with the public, because they build relationships with the parents of these children. There are activities after school with the children, and so the parents, for the most part, are involved. So that is one way of building trust with the community at that level. In addition to that, we have programs where officers in each district, they are required to go out in their various districts and interact with the business community, interact with persons on the street who may have concerns, and address the concerns. It may not be a concern necessarily of crime. It may be something as simple as the garbage truck hasn't been coming in my area, or my neighbor parks badly, and so the garbage truck is unable to come, and the officer address that particular problem. It might be a situation where the street light in the area is out for some time. The officer will seek to contact the various authorities to get that problem rectified. So we try different activities to reach out to the public in an effort to gain their trust.
There is a notion in the public that the police doesn't have a continuity plan in terms of all of the efforts of, let's say, for the children. I'm going to use an example. Children, you're saying that they shouldn't be loitering after 10 o'clock. But maybe that is only for now. They will not continue to uphold that. That is what the public is saying about the police. The police will not continue to uphold that. What do you say? What would your response be to something like that?
I would disagree in that to deal with children, it must be a multiple agency approach. The police are limited just to enforcing the law. And we have to reach out to Ministry of Social Services and the Education Department, because even though the law is there, the law is rigid, but we have to have that empathy in dealing with children. So it'll be we have to craft out the best way of addressing this concern. As you may be aware, this has been on the books for quite some time, and it was just sleeping. So we just want to, in an effort to address crime holistically, we thought it was necessary to just bring it into the domain of our discussion. But we intend to go further with it with regards to having the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Social Services involved as well.
And just to follow on the Commissioner, as we always say, the issue of crime and addressing crime has to be an all of society approach. You have to use the all of society approach. And it cannot be just the police there picking up children off the streets. What happened to the parents? What happened to their responsibility to ensure that their children are not on the street? Because if their children are not on the street, then the police would not have to take them off the street. So parents must do their part, the schools must do their part, social services, probation officers, everyone has to do their part, because if it's left on the police to do everything, we are going to get burned out. It is just not possible for the police to do everything every time. So if the other persons, the other stakeholders involved are not pulling their weight, then the police are going to get burned out, and it will be impossible for us to have the continuity, type of continuity that is needed. So we need to have all the other stakeholders doing their part, and then continuity would be easier.
People make the world go
Yes, there you had it. That was the commissioner and the deputy commissioner, among other things, talking about the discipline of the officers within the rank and file of the police force, who are coming in for discipline whenever they receive reports of or allegations of impropriety or bad behavior by officers of the police force. We go to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Caller, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. And God and greetings in Jesus' name. What I call to say is that no matter how we fight crime, if we don't do things the Bible way, we will only in the end be making things worse and worse, as all that we do will be counterproductive. And we are not doing things the Bible way. Even having a police force, even having a government standing police force, even that goes against the Bible. So we cannot solve anything apart from the Bible, doing things, not doing things the Bible way. We cannot solve anything that way. And that's how we are doing things, contrary to the Bible. All the answers and solutions are in the Bible only, and that's the only how we could solve our problems, because all the solutions and answers are in the Bible only. All we need to do is just obey it, but we need to first start with true biblical repentance as individuals and as people group, including as a nation and as a country and federation. We need to biblically repent of all of our wrongs and disobedience of the Bible in all of our sinful, evil, and wicked ways, because we are a very hypocritical and perverse and evil and wicked people, and we need to repent of all of these things. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, caller. Always sharing a biblical perspective on issues impacting us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. What we will do in the coming weeks, we will seek to get the religious community here on Inside the News to give us a perspective on how they are working to tackle the problem of crime and violence, because in some quarters, the criticism is also being leveled on various sections of society, NGOs, civil society organizations, the religious community, for not stepping up to do more, not just to fight the scourge of crime and violence that's currently happening, but in some sections there are also criticisms being leveled towards the religious community in terms of the churches for not protecting children, more specifically the younger generation, from what we're seeing happening now. Callers specifically to this program and some others have criticized the level of music that is being played, the type of music that our children is being exposed to, also the movies that children are being exposed to, the technology that is giving kids or children the opportunity to look at videos online and so forth. So there's some criticism that the religious community needs to step up its effort to assist in stamping out what we're seeing happening, especially among the children within society, as we continue to deal with the issues now and prevent them from repeating themselves in the future. So we'll seek to get the religious community to come on and share their insights and thoughts on the whole issue of crime and violence and how best we can tackle this particular issue from that perspective. Additionally, we'll also try to get some educators to talk about tackling it from a education perspective in terms of what more we can do to assist in fighting crime and violence. I know, as the Prime Minister keeps reiterating, crime and violence from a public health perspective, and that is a broad facet of a broad area to consider in terms of how crime and violence can impact us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. People might hear certain statements and they're sounding very cliched, but a lot of us do not take the time out to actually sit down and digest some of what is being said. Right? We might hear a statement, but we don't look at it from the broader perspective. some of us in the media, we tend to go beyond just the headlines, whether it be on the radio stations, in the online publications, in the TV stations. We try to educate you so you can understand what these issues mean for you as people here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but we can only go so far for you to sit down in your quiet moments to digest and understand and bring these issues to you personally, how these issues are impacting you now, tomorrow, and sometime in the future. And I think that's where that's what a lot of us are guilty of, is that we do not necessarily sit down and digest these issues, right? We complain a lot, which is our prerogative. We can complain, but at the same time, we have to get an understanding of the implications of every decision that is made. So yes, at least when I'm in the hot seat here on WinFM, I try my best to get you your understanding of issues impacting us in St. Kitts and Nevis, whether those issues are local issues, regional issues, or international issues impacting. How is it going to impact you? You know, we have the United States elections. What does that mean if the Republican Party gets in for us here in the Caribbean region? Let's take, for example, what does it mean in our crime fighting initiatives? What does it mean if the Democrats stay in office in terms of our crime fighting initiatives? Because at the end of the day, the United States throws a lot of support behind the Caribbean region. We are also in discussions to combat this whole discussion surrounding the gun smuggling from the United States. What does this mean as a policy position should a different administration come in? What does this mean for somebody like the current vice president of the United States who's running to become the president of the United States? Will she hold on to the same policies that are currently in place in terms of the illicit flow of guns from the United States to the Caribbean region? What is Donald Trump's approach to the illegal flow of weapons into the Caribbean region? So these are sort of issues that we have to sit down and talk about and get a better understanding for us. A lot of us like to go to the United States, but what does this mean? St. Kitts and Nevis is becoming a hotspot for crime and violence. Do we get shakedown when we travel overseas? There's also concerns about the illicit flow of more cocaine being found here. Does that mean that all eyes would be on a flight coming out of St. Kitts and Nevis wherever you go, whether it be Antigua, the United States, the UK, Europe, Barbados, whatever it is? So these are the sort of issues that we will be taking a closer look at in the coming days, the implication of crime and violence and what is transpiring down here and its impact and its broad implications and impact for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But at this point in time, we have to acknowledge the people who make the program possible, at least for the first half. Carol Brewery, TDC, and then when we come back, we will wrap the first half of the program, and then we'll join Kevin Brown, who's on the news desk today.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's back time for Budger's Hardware Hustle. That's right, buy any 2 gallons of Budger paint from participating hardware stores for a chance to win a shopping spree in a hardware store valued at $1,000. Visit BudgerPaintsCaribbean.com on how you can enter. Promotion ends August 31st. See Budger Caribbean on Facebook and Instagram for details. Yes! Budger, for lasting beauty and protection.
People make the world go
And we are back here on Inside the News. Again, I'm German Abels, just sitting in today on the program, keeping you company as we look to discuss or continue to discuss the issue of crime and violence, which continues to affect us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as our neighbors, Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla, and some other territories close by. They're also facing this issue of crime and violence, more specifically robberies and homicides. Yes, that was the discussion for the first half of the program. We'll continue with that and more on the second half. I just want to quickly apologize to those listeners out there before I take a break for the news. Those who are not hearing us in certain parts of the island, one of the transmitters, again, due to some discussions and technical issues that they're working out at Skedek, that is currently off air, that they're working on, as well as some of the other radio stations. And I received some complaint this morning that one of the other transmitters may not be working. So I do want to apologize to those who are having trouble listening on the radio. I can tell that a lot of work is being done right now to deal with those issues. From what I was told a little while ago, work is actually on the way to fix that particular issue. So hopefully by the end of today, or even before the end of today, that will be rectified. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. It's now time for the headline news. So we'll break for the headline news, and then we'll come right back in just about a half an hour or so and we'll continue with the discussion here on Inside the News.
Found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured. Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
With the WinFM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown. Our top stories.
St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister continues to advocate for addressing crime and violence as a public health crisis with emphasis on youth. OECS and MIC launch initiative to improve journalists' reporting on plastic pollution and circular economy. Guyana opposition People's National Congress reform questions gas shore project. Ministry of Health in St. Lucia urges parents to prioritize child health with the new school year. Internationally, Congo hospitals await vaccines as Mpox cases surge.
Now the details.
Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew focuses on treating the crime and violence issues in St. Kitts and Nevis as a public health crisis. In the August 27th broadcast of the Round Table, Dr. Drew outlined new policies addressing the root causes of criminal behaviour, emphasizing early intervention for children. A central component of the strategy is the newly approved national drug policy, which aims to reduce drug demand.
If you have demand for drugs will come. Somebody will find a way to do it. And with drugs come guns and so forth.
The policy seeks to address drug addiction among vulnerable groups, including children, to reduce both drug trade and associated violence. The government also plans to build a facility focused on drug use prevention and mental health services. Additionally, over 20 new family counselors have been trained, the highest number in the country's history, to assist families under stress and prevent issues that may lead to criminal behavior.
We want them all to the country so that we can capture wherever the issues are.
Mental health services have been expanded by hiring additional professionals, including psychiatrists, a PhD-level psychologist, and more school counselors. Dr. Drew emphasized the importance of early intervention in family dynamics and trauma solution. The number of structured programs such as Scouts and Cadets in schools has increased, and plans are underway to make participation in these programs mandatory.
So we have expanded the Sea Cadets, the Infantry Cadets, the Scouts, and you will see them on display during our independence so that all children can have access to those type of structured programs, so to speak.
The government has introduced the Children's Medical Services Program to address poverty-related issues and provide medical care for children from low-income families. This initiative aims to reduce family stress and prevent situations that could lead to criminal behavior. Family counselors also provide support for victims of violent crimes and their families. Dr. Drew highlighted the Elevate program, which includes counseling, training, and rehabilitation to assist individuals in reintegrating into society. The program has been extended to both female and male inmates, with attention given to mothers re-entering society after incarceration. Dr. Drew revealed plans to establish a dedicated department within the government to manage these initiatives.
This has to be a fundamental part of our governance structure, and that is why we want to make this department. If in the future somebody wants to change it, it's up to them. But hopefully they will keep the essence of the program. But we are making sure that we have a department in government that deals specifically with this. Right now, we have a task force that will become a secretariat, that will become a department, and if needs be, can become a ministry.
The comprehensive approach addresses crime and violence through multiple strategies, focusing on supporting and protecting the next generation. The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States OECS Commission, in collaboration with the Media Institute of the Caribbean MIC, has introduced a new initiative that is specifically designed to enhance the skills of Caribbean journalists in reporting on plastic pollution and waste management within the circular economy framework. The initiative features a 4-part webinar series designed to give journalists a deeper understanding of regional waste management challenges and practical tools for reporting these environmental issues. The webinars, held from August 22nd to September 19th, has attracted 86 registered participants, with an average of 50 attending the initial session. The series, co-facilitated by MIC, includes contributors from experts affiliated with the United Nations Development Programme UNDP, academic institutions, and private consulting firms. The webinars cover various topics, including plastic pollution in the Caribbean, waste management strategies, the circular economy concept, relevant legislation, international agreements, and techniques for conducting advanced research and media coverage. The training is part of the Recycle OECS project, a collaboration between the OECS and Agence Française de Développement AFD, funded by the European Union. The project's objective is to develop a sustainable model for the collection, separation, and recycling of plastic waste in the Eastern Caribbean, with a focus on reducing plastic pollution in marine and terrestrial environments. Wesley Gibbings, Vice President of the Media Institute of the Caribbean, said reporting on environmental issues like plastic pollution requires clear communication of complex scientific concepts and rigorous journalism, including investigation and accountability. The partnership with the OECS aims to support journalists in producing impactful stories on these topics. Journalists and media professionals in the region are encouraged to participate in this initiative, contribute to the ongoing discussion on sustainable development in the Caribbean. The next webinar is scheduled for September 5th, with more details available on the MIC's official website.
In regional news,
Guyana opposition People's National Congress reform questions gas shore project. Guyana News Source reports.
The opposition People's National Congress reform called on the government to come clean about short-term plans for the multi-billion-dollar gas-to-energy power plant, which is currently under construction at Wales on the west bank of the Marara. There were concerns from the opposition and civil society a few months ago about soil deficiencies at the construction site of the project. At a press conference, the chairman of the People's National Congress Reform, Sherwin Holder, questioned whether the area is suitable for industrial development, especially as it regards manufacturing plants with heavy-duty equipment. A 2017 study had identified Clonbrook on the east coast of the Marara as the best location for the gas-to-shore project, but the government chose Wales instead. In addition to the feasibility concerns, the PNC reform is contending that it will cost Guyanese way more money to land the pipeline at Wales than at Clonbrook.
This, ironically, comes on the back of the PUP saying that an assessment of the soil for all available sites was done, and that Wales was a good choice. The PUP even stressed that the site was also advantageous because there is land there available for an industrial park. It now appears that to develop such a park, that land will need some degree of costly soil remediation.
And recently, the US-based company executing the project announced that it is currently in the process of remedying soil deficiencies. The company said updates from the gas energy project soil remediation is in progress for Guyana's 300-megawatt combined cycle power plant. The People's National Congress reform is of the view that the government is not coming clean about the possible non-suitability of the area for the power plant at Wales.
One thing to note, however, is that the pipeline, because the Wales site was not ideal, the pipelines will have to be longer than they would otherwise have been, and therefore they're much more costly. Some estimates put it at between 100 or 120 million US more expense because of the Wales site. Obviously, if a pipeline is longer, it is likely to take a longer time to construct. So that's one of the reasons that the pipeline isn't already finished, or at least could be one of the reasons that you could say that the pipeline isn't already finished. So essentially, moving this project from what the feasibility study indicated as the best site to the Wales site has come with a series of complications, additional costs, and now risks.
The opposition party also said the government must provide Guyanese with a truthful, realistic timeline for the project and must also provide regular updates about the cost and other issues related to the project.
Ministry of Health in St. Lucia urges parents to prioritize child health with the new school year. HTS News Force has that story.
Is your child properly prepared for school? The Ministry of Health is urging parents in St. Lucia to be vigilant and proactive in ensuring their children's health is not compromised, especially in light of current global health concerns.
Provide your child with hand sanitizer, disinfectant, wipes, a bottle of hand soap, a daily supply of water to remain hydrated. When preparing lunch bags, avoid excessive packaged snacks and sweetened beverages. Make use of seasonal fruits and vegetables to encourage healthier eating habits. Involve your child in the process to instill a sense of responsibility and ownership. Discuss health and safety measures with your child. Example, the importance of good hand hygiene, avoid sharing personal belongings, walking from school in groups, and good touch, bad touch.
Additionally, parents are advised to familiarize themselves with the signs and symptoms of Mpox and other infectious diseases and to seek medical care promptly if any symptoms arise.
Ensure that you and your child understand the preventative methods and signs and symptoms of Mpox, which include rash, fever, sore throat, headache, muscle aches, back pain, low energy, and swollen lymph nodes. If your child has any of these signs and symptoms, seek medical attention immediately and do not send your child to school. The return to school can cause anxiety for some. Be mindful of your child's emotions and provide a supportive environment where they feel comfortable expressing their emotions.
Janelle Alexander, a health educator with the Ministry of Health, offers parents advice for a successful school year. She emphasizes a holistic approach, encouraging families to adopt healthy habits that ensure a smooth and stress-free return to school.
Have open, ongoing conversations with your child on the risk associated with young people using alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Ask questions. Listen to their responses without judgment. If you have reason to be concerned and are not sure how to proceed, reach out for support from your school or healthcare professional. Talk to your child about bullying. Let them know it is unacceptable. Make sure they know how to get help if they are being bullied. As the new academic year commences, the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and Elderly Affairs would like to wish parents, guardians, principals, teachers, caregivers, auxiliary staff, and students a safe and productive school year.
Health officials are optimistic that by working collaboratively with all stakeholders, any challenges that may arise can be navigated effectively to ensure the well-being of St. Lucia's children. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
We now bring you these international reports.
Doctors in the Democratic Republic of the Congo continue to fight a surge in Mpox cases as they await the arrival of vaccines in the next few days. The World Health Organization said on Friday that 230,000 doses are immediately available to be dispatched. They were donated by the European Commission and Danish Mpox vaccine manufacturer Bavarian Nordic. Dr. Jose Pululu, head of the Mpox Centre at Viana, said the people being treated here are those with severe or critical cases. He detailed how Mpox can lead to serious complications if not attended to, including genital lesions. Despite the push for vaccination, some patients like Blaise Mukendi are hesitant about being inoculated.
What will it do to my body? Something I don't know. Because with COVID-19, we saw that some people refused the vaccine. Some accepted the COVID-19 vaccine and others refused because they had other problems afterward. So with this vaccine, we need a clear explanation of its role in our body. If it will really help us, we will accept it. We are sick.
Earlier this month, the WHO declared Mpox a global public health emergency. More than 18,000 suspected cases of Mpox have been reported in Congo so far this year. The viral infection has now spread to at least 12 neighbouring countries. Mpox had been circulating in the DRC since January last year, but only became a grave concern this January when scientists spotted a worrying new mutation.
Palestinian fishermen in Gaza are using whatever they can to get out to sea. All door is now a makeshift boat. Necessity has forced them to use whatever they have to continue fishing.
In this war, we have lost all of our boats and fishing gear. We are left with nothing. Fishermen started to improvise, using very primitive methods. I'm even using this door as a raft, simply to float on the water and try to catch some fish to feed our children.
The fishermen say Israeli forces routinely attack anyone who ventures beyond the harbor. But despite the danger, they do what needs to be done.
When we go on our fishing routes, as soon as we leave the port, the Israeli Navy starts firing on us indiscriminately. All we ask for is to go out to get some food and come back safe to our children. We want to have a future.
Very little aid is getting into Gaza. That means finding food can be the difference between life and death. But while heading out to sea has risks, there is no safety to be found on shore either.
Danger is always present. For example, only 2 days ago, this is our neighbor's shed. They were sitting here trying to mend their fishing nets when an Israeli drone fired a rocket at them.
At the end of the day, a modest catch, but enough to make the trip worthwhile. Coming back alive is more important than seeking more fish in deeper waters. Many Palestinians take their chances on the sea. Although they can't go far, the Israeli military has made it virtually impossible for Gaza's fishermen to enter their waters. In search of food they desperately need, they try to return with at least some fish. Yet, most often, it's barely enough to feed themselves and their families. The situation is desperate, but that's forced people here to be resourceful. And even without boats, the fishermen of Gaza are still finding ways to survive. Ibrahim Al-Khalili, Al Jazeera, Port of Gaza, Palestine.
Next to South America, an X, formerly known as Twitter, has been banned in Brazil. The ruling came after the platform missed a deadline to name a new legal representative there. A Supreme Court judge ordered the immediate and complete suspension of the social media platform until it complies with all court orders and pays existing fines. X removed its legal representative from Brazil, claiming the judge had threatened her with arrest. Elon Musk says free speech is the bedrock of democracy and an unelected pseudo-judge in Brazil is destroying it for political purposes. Technology columnist for the Washington Post, Taylor Lorenz, explains how this ruling came about.
This has been a months-long battle. It basically stems from Elon refusing to take down content related to Brazil's attempted insurrection back in 2022. And then he was ordered to, have a lawyer. You have to, under Brazilian law, have a legal representative in the country. He was given 24 hours to appoint a legal representative in the country or the platform would be banned. He refused to do that. So he's kind of had this sort of a showdown. He could have prevented this ban, and he chose not to.
And of course, a lot of us know X. We use X as well. How significant is this decision for the social media platform?
This is an incredibly significant moment for X. I mean, Brazil is one of the top most used countries. We've got 21.5 million monthly users in Brazil alone. Brazil also plays a really crucial part of sort of pop culture standom. You saw a lot of big celebrity accounts are located in Brazil, journalists, big names that people follow for news and information. So cutting this off really with very short notice is going to have a significant effect.
Yes, and the question is, what does it mean for users in Brazil? I was just reading that anyone who tries to access X illegally there could be fined $9,000 a day. So how will it impact people in Brazil?
Yeah, they've said that people using a VPN to essentially try and circumvent this ban will be fined. This is kind of a scary precedent to set, but they really want to ensure that it's cut off. Users that I spoke to that run big stan accounts, celebrity-focused accounts, were saying that they're trying to push people onto other platforms. A lot of them are trying to exchange contact information and say goodbye. A bunch of these accounts are monetized, so you have people relying on the monetization that they're generating from these big Twitter accounts to pay their rent, to put food on the table. And so for that to go away overnight because Elon Musk, just decided sort of arbitrarily not to comply with this stuff is quite major.
UN agencies are preparing to start a mass polio vaccination program in Gaza this weekend, after Israel and Hamas agreed to a series of 3-day localized pauses in fighting. The World Health Organization officials have said that 1.2 million polio vaccine doses have already been delivered to Gaza ahead of the rollout. The goal is to vaccinate more than 600,000 children after the first case of polio in 25 years was discovered in Gaza. Lucy Williamson reports.
Born a month before the Gaza war began, Abdul Rahman has played a role in pausing it, something world leaders have struggled to do. Earlier this month, Abdul Rahman was diagnosed with polio, the first case in Gaza for 25 years. The family, 9 children in all, live in a camp in central Gaza, displaced multiple times from their home in the north. The constant moving disrupted his vaccinations. His mother says others in the camp are afraid and stop their children playing with him.
The virus stopped his progress. He stopped sitting, stopped walking, stopped crawling, and stopped moving. I want him to be treated. He wants to live and walk like other children.
Abdurrahman's diagnosis has raised fresh alarm over conditions in Gaza's camps. The phased pause in fighting will allow medics to vaccinate more than 500,000 children in stages across the territory. But the conditions that caused this crisis are worsening, say aid organizations, and their solutions are not straightforward.
Due to the insecurity, the damage, the road infrastructure and population displacement, but also based on our experience with this kind of campaigns globally and worldwide, the 3 days might not be enough to achieve adequate vaccination.
Israel's Prime Minister was clear that this was not a ceasefire. The war has so far been resistant to both diplomacy and disease. But preventing another layer of tragedy is seen as one small victory. What the EU's foreign policy chief called a drop of hope in a sea of despair. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Jenin.
Well, Sam Rose, Director of Planning at UNRWA, told me more about the vaccination programme.
I mean, we're deeply concerned about the levels at which it may be at. There's one confirmed case that your reporter referred to. There may be many more because the health system here has been decimated largely over the past 10 months. The bombardments, the destruction of clinics, the collapse of water and sewage, solid waste management infrastructure, the malnutrition. These are precisely the conditions in which a vaccine like this reemerges. A vaccine which had been eradicated for more than 25 years inside the Gaza Strip has reemerged. So we're deeply concerned. And at the same time, we welcome so much, as everyone here does, the respite for just a small amount of time from the bombings, from the evacuation orders, that we hope will allow us to administer a successful campaign working closely with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the Ministry of Health, and other partners. But as you said, this is a massive effort. We just really hope that it will be successful for the children we're vaccinating.
The disease re-emerging, of course, rather than the vaccine re-emerging. But just explain for us how you actually get to all the children, and how can you be sure that all the children there will be reached? Is 3 days enough?
3 days perhaps isn't enough, as your previous interviewee said. And this will be 3 days across 3 different areas of the Gaza Strip: the southern governorates, the middle governorates, and the northern governorates. The vaccines, most of them have now arrived in Gaza. The personnel who will administer those vaccines, who will register the children, who are raising awareness amongst the community, have been hired, have been trained, are out there. But doing anything in Gaza right now is incredibly difficult. Surviving the night is very difficult. So we face a number of challenges. The fact that there will be pauses, humanitarian pauses, the fact that there will be no evacuation orders make our lives more easy. It means that we can distribute the vaccines, the fuel, the staff to the areas in which they need to go. And UNRWA, my organization, will be vaccinating up to half of these children. We've taken on about 1,100 of our personnel will be involved, and we'll be vaccinating at our primary health clinics that we have, at health points that we've set up in areas that people have been vaccinated to. We have mobile teams who work in the dozens and dozens of schools where hundreds of thousands of people are sheltering. And we will do what would previously have been house to house, but now is tent to tent, largely, given the realities of the situation in which people live. But reaching that more or less magic number of 90% of children will be very difficult, because we don't quite know how many children there are. We don't know how many are still alive. We certainly don't know precisely anyway.
You were listening to the Midday News on WinFM 98.9. The headlines:
St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister continues to advocate for addressing crime and violence as a public health crisis with emphasis on youth. OECS and MIC launch initiative to improve journalists' reporting on plastic pollution and circular economy. Guyana opposition People's National Congress reform questions gas shore project. Ministry of Health in St. Lucia urges parents to prioritize child health with the new school year. Internationally, Congo hospitals await vaccines as Mpox cases surge.
Thank you for listening.
I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. Hello. China and the Philippines have angrily blamed each other for the latest collision between their ships in a deepening dispute over contested waters in the South China Sea. The incident, involving 2 Coast Guard ships, was the second in 2 weeks at the Sabina Shoal. China accused the Philippine ship of behaving in a dangerous and unprofessional manner. This is how Chinese state television reported the incident.
We once again warn the Philippines, give up your illusions and retreat immediately. That is the only correct way. Do not act on misjudgment, create contentious topics or escalate the situation.
The Philippine Coast Guard said the Chinese vessel had intentionally rammed its ship. Palestinian health workers have started vaccinating some babies in Gaza against polio ahead of a mass immunisation programme that's due to start on Sunday. Palestinian health workers carried out the vaccinations in Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. UNICEF says the official campaign will start at 7:30 in the morning local time in Deir al-Balah on Sunday. Israel is continuing military operations in Jenin in the occupied West Bank. Israeli forces have been carrying out what they describe as counter-terrorism operations against Palestinian militants for the past 5 days in several West Bank cities and towns. John Donison has more details.
There have been loud explosions coming from the urban refugee camp in the centre of Jenin, as well as bursts of gunfire. Israeli helicopter gunships have been spotted overhead, and Israel says it is pursuing its counter-terrorism operations. Its foreign minister has said there is in effect a war in the West Bank, and it's a war that Israel is determined to win, but it is having a huge impact on civilians living in Palestinian cities in the north of the West Bank.
Research suggests that a drug used to treat type 2 diabetes and obesity can be used to reduce the severity of other serious illnesses. Studies published in a number of medical journals indicate that Ozempic improved the health of patients with heart failure. Here's Graham Satchell.
Ozempic works by slowing the digestive process and mimicking a hormone that tells your brain you're full. Several studies presented at yesterday's conference took data from a major trial which tracked almost 18,000 people aged 45 or older for 3 years. Those who took the drug died at a lower rate from all causes, including heart problems and COVID. Losing weight has long been known to have significant health benefits. Researchers are making grand claims about this weight loss drug that by improving someone's heart and digestive health, they will ultimately live longer and better.
World News from the BBC. The independent Russian media outlet Mediazona says it's logged the names of more than 66,000 Russian military personnel who've died during the war in Ukraine. The number has risen by more than 4,500 in the last 4 weeks. A journalist at Mediazona said researchers were still working through a backlog of death reports, so the figures did not include those killed in the latest Ukrainian offensive in Kursk or Russia's advances in eastern Ukraine. A helicopter with 22 people on board has gone missing on the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia's Far East. The helicopter was carrying tourists. It disappeared from radar soon after takeoff from the ancient Vachkazhets volcano. Police in Britain are trying to find the owner of a collection of stolen war medals, which was found by a litter-picking group. The haul, which includes coins and jewellery, was found near a former railway depot in southwest England. Here's Claire Runacres.
The community group Clean Our Patch were going about their regular litter picks across Plymouth this week when they turned up something unexpected at the site of a former railway depot. One of the organisers of the group, Elle Clark, describes what happened.
We spotted a carrier bag through some railings, and as we sort of dug it out, we ended up finding a load of old coins, a couple of war medals, and some jewellery.
The items were handed to police and appear to match those that were stolen in a burglary in 2019. Appeals are being made to try to reunite the property with its owners.
The Formula One team Mercedes has announced that it will replace Lewis Hamilton, who won them 6 championships, with the Italian teenage rookie Andrea Kimi Antonelli at the end of the season. Antonelli, who's 18, had his Grand Prix debut on Friday, but crashed during the practice session. The teenager said reaching Formula One was a childhood dream. And that's the latest BBC News.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Cariboury.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness. It's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organisation on St Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com. When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
People make the world go.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Inside the News here on Win FM. I am German Abel sitting in today. It's good to be in your company, and we're continuing the discussions surrounding crime and violence here in the Federation. Earlier this week, we heard the police force had their press conference and they updated the nation on initiatives and the progress of the crime fighting or the fight against crime and violence, rather, that they've undertaken in terms of their approach to tackling the scourge here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes, in terms of their approach to tackling the issues that we're facing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We heard earlier that they've also been dealing with the indiscipline within the police force. A number of officers have been brought before the Professional Standards Department. We've also heard that from the Commissioner in terms of the approaches, he's calling for citizens, even those households, to update their cameras, ensure that they're working, because those footage can be critical in the fight against crime and violence. We also heard a bit there from Assistant Commissioner of Police Travis Rogers. We know, and if anybody's been following closely some of what the police has been publishing, they have been finding a number of substances, white powdery substances, even though they ended up turning out in some key instances to be cocaine. It has piqued an interest and has raised an interest in terms of whether or not St. Kitts and Nevis is slowly becoming a transshipment point for cocaine. And he indicated that that's not what they've been seeing based on the evidence that they have gathered so far, in terms of that being the case. But he did acknowledge that a number of vessels passing through St. Kitts and Nevis would have been caught with varying amounts of cocaine, as well as a number of vessels that came ashore here in terms of being washed ashore. They have popped up with cocaine as well. So that's another issue that they're having to deal with. They also talk about clamping down on the young people. The laws have always been on the books, but has never been properly enforced. So that's another area that they've been stepping up in terms of clamping down on here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The issue of the talk and the issue surrounding crime and violence is not something limited to St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a region-wide problem. And how do we get over this issue is what we're still trying to find a solution to here in the Federation. But before we continue with the program, let's acknowledge the people who make the program possible, Cara Brewery and TDC, and then when we come back, we'll continue with more Inside the News.
People make the world go round.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Need some extra cash to make your summer dreams come true? Look no further than TDC Financial Services Live Your Dream this summer loan promotion. With up to $65,000 unsecured and up to 8 years to repay, our summer loan promotion is your ticket to that dream vacation, home renovation, or anything else your heart desires. Applying is easy, so why wait? Take advantage of TDC Financial Services Live Your Dream this summer loan promotion today and make this summer one to remember.
People make the world go
Yes, and we are back. You can call and share your thoughts as we discuss the issue of crime and violence here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we'll continue now to hear more from the police force surrounding its initiatives. We heard last week that they had the crime symposium, or recently had their symposium, where they met with key stakeholders to discuss tackling this whole issue of crime and violence and the 90-day initiative which the government has launched. Now, what were some of the takeaways from that? Where do we go from here based on that initiative? That is something we'll hear from the police force in terms of the takeaways from that initiative.
What came out of that stakeholder engagement that suggests that we are heading in the right direction in terms of solving crime, particularly gun violence? The other question is, what is the status of the search for Philip Jones, who had been a person of interest, well, listed as a person of interest? And the latest update I saw was August 3rd. And the third question is there any data to support the linkage between white-collar crime and violent crime, in particular gun violence, here in St. Kitts and Nevis? Thank you.
With regard to the stakeholders engagement, I believe that the Prime Minister has laid it out. The police is only a subset of that engagement. We welcome such an engagement because we want all society approach when it comes to the fighting of crime, because you may have heard the different agencies or departments that will be a part of it. So basically what came out of the stakeholders meeting was just the icebreaker as to the way forward in dealing with this matter. With regard to Philip Jones, he's still wanted. A number of operations have been conducted and he has not been found, so the matter is ongoing as we speak. With regard to the data linking gun crime and white-collar crime, I will not be able to provide that information as we speak, but when it comes to gun crime, because of the fact that we do not manufacture guns here, it will require finance to purchase these guns and to get them into St. Kitts. So just basically that can show you a nexus. But to provide you with the data, I would not be able to find at this time. I will have to speak to my unit in that regard.
It has been reported that a number of suspects, people believe that a number of suspects may be traveling overseas to get away from their bad acts. Can you speak to that? And does SKN have an extradition treaty with neighboring islands such as the Dominican Republic, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Martin, St. Lucia? Thank you.
Repeat the first question.
It's been touted around that a number of suspects may be traveling overseas to get away from their bad acts, running away. Can you speak to that?
I can't speak to that because I don't have any evidence with regards to that. So, as I said, a number of it's unconfirmed. Persons are saying that persons are absconding. Persons are absconding to avoid prosecution. We have not had any data with respect to that. But if that is the case, we will have to reach out to our counterparts because you're going to go, if it's within CARICOM, we have the CARICOM agreement that we can resort to. So we can deal with it from that within CARICOM. But other countries that we do not, for example, Dominican Republic, I can't speak definitively that we have an extradition treaty with them. I will have to follow with the Foreign Affairs in that regard.
For quite some time, there's been some discussions over the years about the possibility of a hit for hire occurring across, especially these territories in the north, St. Kitts, Nevis, Antigua, Anguilla, St. Martin. As your investigations continue and as you seek to curb the current gun violence occurring here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we've been seeing a similar occurrence in neighboring Antigua, Barbuda, to an extent Anguilla and some of the other territories. Is there any suspicion while you investigate all of these homicides that we've had for the year that this is occurring, one, and two, what sort of measure, if this is actually found to be true, that the police force will be taking or is planning to take, even if this does not happen, to combat this particular issue?
If I may, we cannot speak definitively to the issue of hit, hire for hit, in terms of the violent crimes, because we don't have any evidence of that. We have investigated quite a number of homicides for the year. A number of persons have been arrested. And over the years I've been at the helm, I have not seen any evidence of persons being hired to hit, because the evidence during the investigations come out as to motive, as to the actus reus, the actions, and so forth. But if that were to be the case, then we will have to collaborate with our regional counterparts, which in fact we do, from the level of the Association of Assistant Commissioner of Police. We collaborate at different levels, Caribbean or CARICOM impacts. We collaborate with the RSS and other agencies, UN LIREC. So if that were to be the case, then we will have to increase our collaboration in trying to get to the bottom, to get the evidence to support the charge. But as it stands now, I cannot support the notion. There's no evidence to support that notion that there's a hit for hire across the region.
Okay, two other questions from me. One, At this juncture, there have been and continue to be some disgruntlement, and this is more to Mr. Sutton there. The Defense Force, that a number of officers within the Defense Force are unhappy, disgruntled in terms of what is transpiring within the ranks there. And many of them are, quote unquote, looking to leave the Defense Force at this juncture where we are critically fighting crime and violence. Now that you are at the helm of the Defense Force, how are you, or what's your plan to deal with this? One, two, remove this disgruntlement and this dissatisfaction within the Defense Force at this time?
All right, thank you for the question. Before anything can be done to address your what you allege is going on, situational awareness will have to occur. I mean, we have to do an investigation. The military has systems to take care of its issues. We have to find out from the soldiers what are their concerns, interactions between the junior level leaderships and intermediate level leaderships will have to occur. And they also have routine evaluation processes that take place. And I think those are the processes that will highlight what the issues are that is within the different units. And the unit commanders will pass on that information or find a way to deal with it. Now, what cannot be dealt with within the Defense Force, where perhaps we need specialized intervention, then we seek that kind of intervention. But it's clear that soldiers and police officers as well are operating under a lot of pressure at this time because of the seriousness of the situation. A lot of rest days are being curtailed, vacations are being curtailed, and so forth. Now, we have to also understand that the soldiers and the police officers are human beings. We have our needs, we have commitments, we have obligations. So these situations tend to put a lot of pressure on the service members, police, soldiers, and that could easily lead to disgruntlement. At this time, we have what is going on and the heightened security operations that are taking place now. In another few months, it's Christmas, and that is additional pressure. We have Independence Parade coming up. The National Heroes Day Parade is coming up shortly, and the patrols, the security operations are not stopping, and everything just keeps coming in. So we understand the the environment in which we operate right now. We try very hard to create that level of, like they say, release the pressure kind of thing. We have sports, and you try to give soldiers time when you can, and also try to improve and increase morale, morale boosting activities and so on. But the situation in the country presently demands that we have all hands on deck. So everything else will be dealt with, in sequence. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay. Okay, now we have a question that was sent in virtually by Glenn Batt from SKN Newsline.
People make the world go
And we're back. So there you had it. That was a bit more from the press conference earlier this week we are focusing on, rather, as we talk about the issue of crime and violence. The phone lines are open. You can call in and give us your thoughts and perspectives in terms of what you heard and any issue that you believe we need to discuss this afternoon, as we continue here on the program. Let me again apologize for those who are having technical issues, listening to the radio station via their radios. There is an issue with one of the transmitters as well as the one that's existingly down because of the challenges with Skelec. A few other radio stations are also having that issue as they continue to have discussions with Skelec and moving forward with that particular issue there surrounding the transmitter in Otley's, I believe it is at the time. But yes, we are discussing crime and violence at this point. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with more Inside the News.
We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
That's the familiar sound of the school bell ringing to let you know that class is in session. Listen up, class. Let your parents know that the place to shop for your back-to-school essentials is the TDC Home and Building Depot in St. Kitts and City Drugstore Nevis Limited. Get up to 30% off backpacks, notebooks, pens, pencils, school bundles, printers, and more. And while they're there, be sure to have them ask about the tech tools for teachers so we can help you achieve even more success. And remind them about Flash Sale Fridays, when you can receive even more savings just in time for the new school year. Now you know. See you at TDC Home and Building Depot and City Drugstore Nevis Limited. Class is now dismissed. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
If you live in low-lying areas, be aware of the possibility of tsunamis immediately after an earthquake. A strong earthquake lasting 20 seconds or more is a natural tsunami warning. Do not wait for an official warning. Gather your family members and evacuate immediately after the shaking stops. Don't delay. A tsunami could occur within minutes.
This message is sponsored by the Australian Government, AusAid, and produced by NEMA in collaboration with Win FM.
Found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go
And we are back here on Inside the News. We are discussing crime and violence today and taking a look at what transpired. The phone lines are open. You can call and share your thoughts in terms of how you think what was discussed earlier this week, what we played both in the first half of the program, a bit of what you heard earlier, is impacting all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis and the potential impact that it's going to have on us as a country significantly. What sort of impact do you foresee this having for St. Kitts and Nevis on a global, a regional and global scene? We are a tourism-dependent destination, 1. 2, we are seeking more investors to come and assist in building St. Kitts and Nevis. So what more can we do additionally to bolster and get a grip of what is happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis? Sorry, caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, I listened to a program yesterday, and some of the persons on the program seem to be of the opinion that we should be prepared to go back to paying for peace, so to speak. Okay? Their rationale was, well, if you think that paying for peace is expensive, try not doing it. Okay? And I thought that was somewhat defeatist. Because you have to remember how this thing started, and I think they themselves recognize the fact that initially the peace initiative was started by gang members themselves. If you recall, they were interrupted in their whatever discussions they were having to put down the guns by security forces. And then is when money and so on came into the picture, right? I think unless, as some people believe, that this thing has now become bigger than a localized warfare, because essentially that's what it is. If indeed it has expanded Caribbean-wide, and it's as such, it's much bigger than what we ourselves can deal with, then what we need to do really is reset to that point when the gang people themselves decided that it was time to stop, right? And so whatever intervention we have right now, okay, we should have been trying to at least go back to that point, find out what happened at that point that made the gangs decide that they're going to stop this, all right? And there is where we want to get back to. If the persons involved are still alive, right, then they should be approached to get back to that, right? In other words, we might try to solve this from outside, But really and truly, it's the gang people who are going to have to stop the killing. Okay? And so, whether using intelligence or whether using the players that were involved before, I hope that, for instance, what's his name, Saunders, the National Security Advisor then, was thoroughly debriefed before he left, because I guess he would have been intimately involved with the situation at that point. More should have been done to find out exactly at that point what had happened that made the gang members decide that enough was enough. And if the persons, like I said, are still alive, get them to negotiate, or if you want to call it that, among themselves, or come to some rapprochement between them, like they were attempting to do, right? Maybe an intermediary probably might not even be needed. Okay, let them work it out themselves. Okay, don't provide too much of a carrot. The only carrot I think that should be provided is that those who wish would be integrated into the existing societal interventions, safety nets, like Sept and being able to access loans just like anybody else, not give them anything extra. In other words, give them a promise that they'll be into mainstream, they would be reinstated into the mainstream of society. They would be reintegrated, okay? But not given any special treatment, right? What I'm saying is that we have to get back to that point. We were there before. So, okay, sure, we might say that there are a lot of things we can do, right? The police can do, everybody can do. But the people who are doing the shooting, right, those are the ones who have to be involved as well, okay? And I'm saying that since we were at the point before where they themselves decided that they were going to do some kind of, they were going to stop this, somehow we need to go back there. And it's going to involve talking to the players, whoever, and the idea that the police and other people know who they are, who the main players are, okay? I don't know if they were at the consultation, to be quite honest. But if they weren't, they should have been there. And if they were not there, then some attempt must be made to talk to them, right? And organize some kind of consultation, symposium between themselves, discussion between the rivals themselves. I mean, that's the only how we're going to stop. Otherwise, we can be here spinning top in mud. We can be here with all kinds of solutions.
But, Colin, I want to ask you, right? Do you think us here in St. Kitts, I want to mean us, society, truly understands the implications of what exactly is transpiring when we talk about this whole crime and violence? Because the bottom line issue is somebody knows where the guns are, somebody knows who the perpetrators are, but at the same time, even though we talk about bringing the gangs together and so forth, that we are not necessarily sharing the intelligence, we're not bridging the gap that is apparently widening between the society and the police force.
You really feel that the gap between the society and the police force is widening?
I mean, we talk about 25 homicides.
I mean,
police have successfully solved approximately 50% of them.
But
still, they're calling for all hands on deck approach to deal with the issue of crime and violence. And we don't just talk about homicides when we talk about crime and violence, but it's seemingly people are not sharing the intel. So for me, my assessment of it would be that there's a widening gap, that people are just not sharing information, and that gap continues to grow.
But they may not be doing that out of fear of repercussions, not necessarily a mistrust of the police or not wanting to cooperate with the police, right? You see, I've heard it said that we're blaming everybody else except the criminals themselves, okay? Yes, everybody have their part to play, but in the final analysis, it is the people who are involved in the crime and violence who are going to have to stop. Okay? We can slow them down. We can have all kinds of interventions. And one of the disturbing things about this, if you realize, is that the criminals always seem to be one step ahead. You'd think that in a small community like ours, something like this problem would have been more manageable. You would have been further ahead at solving it. But it's obvious that these people, I don't know, they have a kind of intelligence of their own which seems to have them one step ahead of the security forces, of the community at large, and that in itself is disturbing. And so what I'm saying is, okay, wherever we were in whatever year it was that they had decided to stop this, we need to get back to that point. And the fact that it happened the first time, I would say that it can happen again, unless, like I said, it's now part of some Caribbean-wide gang problem, right? Or mafia, or whatever you want to call it, insurrection, or whatever you want to call it. Okay? But the mere fact, like I said, that it happened before means that we could get back there. And I think that is certainly one of the things that we can work on to try to get them back to the point where they themselves decided that they weren't going to go down this route, right? And that takes intelligence, that takes knowing who the key players are, that takes bringing them together, that takes offering them some carrots to do that, right? But obviously that part has to be tried as well. Okay? Yes, we can have all sorts of interventions. We can have all sorts of symposia and make all kinds of suggestions from people. And you realize, of course, that some of these, you can divide it into short-term, medium-term, and long-term. It's not that we've been short of solutions. It's not that we've been short of reports and analyses and those things. We've had them over the years. Whether they're applied, though, is another story. Okay? But in any case, we are faced, as you pointed out, with a problem right now that's going to have an impact on the society right now, on our economy right now. And so whatever response we have must also deal not just with the long-term problem of parenting, the school system, the education system, the church and all that, the moral interventions and all that. Those are long-term solutions, right? We have to deal with the now situation, okay? And I'm saying that we should try to get back to where we were before the mayhem, when the mayhem, at least the gangs themselves had decided to end the mayhem, and government foolishly went and intervened with this money stuff, okay? And so that is one I haven't been hearing that as yet, where the gangs themselves are urged to come to some kind of resolution or whatever. It's tough to negotiate with people like that, eh? But it is what it is, and it has to be done. Otherwise, you're going to continue to have this thing of revenge and recrimination, and it would be a never-ending cycle, right? The cycle has to be broken. That's what I think.
All right, thanks,
I'm
caller.
not sure what it's going to take, but definitely I'm quite sure. I keep hearing this thing that everybody know who they are. But if everybody know who they are, why can't they be approached to solve this? Not in terms of just arresting them, because sure, if everybody know who they are, we can round up all of them, put them in a cell, and supposedly do what? Let them rot there? Our laws don't allow that. Okay? So the next best thing is to since we know who they are, let whoever the powers that be approach them with a view to settling this, a negotiated settlement to this. I mean, it might be unpalatable to some to be negotiating with essentially criminals, but the situation, I think, has reached crisis point, and we have to do something different. And so that is one of the things I think that we can do differently, right? It was unfortunate that we had this crap about whether a political party got invited or not. To me, that was foolishness. You know, if you're calling for all hands on deck, everybody should have gotten an official invitation. You know, in the same way, all the political parties should have been treated the same way. I don't know if, I think they said that an email was sent. If an email was sent to everybody, that was the mode that was
yes,
used,
so
that's fine.
from what I was told, an email was sent, and the
to all the parties?
apparently it went to the wrong email address that they don't use anymore. It's a lot of confusion.
Oh, right. Well, you see, but you see, something like that, I would have thought there would have been an official invitation, not just by email, actual letter that they can respond to, that they should have been able to respond to confirm attendance, right? When things like that happen, it suggests disingenuity to the whole thing. You know, like you don't really want them there, but you know, just to tick off the box and say you send them a thing, do that, right? No. This was far too important, far too serious to leave it to that kind of cursory type of notice, right? To me, I mean that's what I think.
I get what you're saying, right? But in terms of hand delivering an email, a document to everyone would be difficult to all organizations.
How many
in terms of the time sensitiveness of the symposium or the meeting that was being had, it was easier to send out an email, because I can say that we at the Media Association, we also received the email, right, and we responded in a timely manner. But I understood why that was done, but I also take your argument.
Well, with all due respect, I don't understand why it was done like that, right? You can't tell me that you can't get. I don't know how much lead time they had, but they've been talking about this for at least a month.
About that,
right? And you can't tell me that within a month you can't get to all the key organizations in St. Kitts and Nevis and confirm their attendance. Yeah, I'm sorry. And when you narrow it down to even parties, how many political parties there? You can't tell me is it 6? Is it as many as 6?
Yeah.
You can't tell me you can't get in touch with 6 political parties, right? And get confirmation that they will be attending in 4 months. I'm sorry, that certainly would not fly with me. There's no excuse for that, in my estimation. Okay, I suspect what more likely happened is that yes, an email probably sent, as you say, it might have been sent to the wrong address. I don't know, right? But If it was sent to the wrong place, well, to me, it's on the sender, all right, because they should have confirmed receipt and if they were genuinely interested in them attending, they should have confirmed receipt and made the proper arrangements. That's what I feel anyway, you know. But we've passed that now. It should not have been a flap. You know, something like that should not have happened. I think that's the bottom line, okay? But we've passed that, and I'm saying that what we have to do now is not so much more of the same. There have been lots of solutions offered, as you well know, over the years, lots of them, okay? And what we should be concentrating now is implementing some of these, as well as making sure that we do other things, like I just suggested, trying to reset, to go back to the time when the gangs themselves decided to stop this, and work towards getting back there, okay? Because obviously we're in a bad place right now, and that calls for some, apart from all hands on deck, yes, and it was always that, it was never really applied, okay? I agree with someone who said that mainly what was happening is that there was a political element in it, where the party in government wanted to claim credit for having reduced the crime, or alternatively blame predecessors for the crime. And so there was not this impetus really for an all of society approach, because they wanted to have the credit. I think we've arrived now at the point where we realize that it's folly to do that, and really and truly everybody should be involved, okay? And everybody must be seen to be involved, you know? Everybody must be seen to be doing their part, so that if we succeed, it's everybody's success. If we fail, it's everybody's failure, right? Don't make it partisan anymore. It has been for far too long.
Okay.
Okay? All right then.
Yeah. Thanks, caller. So we're just about to wind down the program, but there's something I want to point out here, and this is the World Bank report. Latin America and the Caribbean is the most violent region of the world, and violence keeps rising. The number of homicides per person in Latin America is 5 times higher than North America and 10 times than in Asia. The region has 9% of the global population and 1/3 of the world's total deaths by homicide. But this is even more critical. Before I take this one call, before I wrap the program. Violence is a major impetus for migration. Social and domestic violence are widespread, particularly affecting women. Political violence, including violent protests, police brutality, and so forth, against human defenders and all that. This situation is disheartening, as are those statistics showing the region's mediocrity in terms of growth, low productivity, and high levels of inequality. Yet we fail to make the connections. There is evidence that more unequal societies are more violent, and societies torn by violence cannot achieve the higher growth rates to produce jobs, end poverty, and reduce inequality. Violence depresses economic growth in various ways. When violence threatens property rights, it affects investment decisions. In 2012, a World Bank report showed that in 6 countries of the region, the estimated cost of violence was 8% of the gross domestic product. A 10% reduction in violence would lead to a 1 percentage point increase in annual economic growth in the 2 most violent countries. Violence weakens state capacity, making it more vulnerable and less able to take the measures to defend itself. In extreme cases, violence can undermine sovereignty and independence. It's basically highlighting that there are challenges to the society, both economically and socially, when it comes to this whole issue of crime and violence. So that is why we have to be able to tackle this issue. All hands on deck approach is needed when it comes to this issue of crime and violence. We'll go to the phone lines, take this caller before we wrap the program. Caller, good afternoon. Caller, good afternoon.
Yeah, hello. How are you, man?
I am well.
Yeah, great discussions there, man. Mahan coming in with some great, comments there. But definitely, like you say, we got to get back to that position where, the gangsters, them, take it upon themselves to, get the peace initiative going. This is everybody's hands on deck. This is everybody's business. It's a national issue. But the chatter in the street this week is whether PLP was invited to that crime symposium or not. We want to get a clear picture, where that stands. There's some denial that they weren't invited, and some people saying they were.
Well, let me just say this. Based on what the Prime Minister indicated, an invitation was sent over, and someone was explaining to me yesterday. Apparently, the email that it was sent over to, they either don't check it or they don't use it anymore. That's what I was told. So an invitation was actually sent out, but apparently the party did not either see it or receive it, so they could not respond and attend.
All right, okay, we'll take that for now. But definitely, we just got to get this thing under control, man, because, it's not going in the good direction. And it's a societal approach, yeah, all hands on deck. And we all just got to do our part, man. And, that's all I really want to say, man. We got to do our part.
All right.
And
thanks, caller. Well, as I said, we're at the end of the program. It was really good being in your company today. I am German Abel, sitting in today. Not sure if I'm going to be here with you guys next week, but if I am, we'll continue with the latest and we go behind the scenes in terms of what makes the news and how it impacts you. But crime and violence was our discussion for today, which continues to be a major issue. As I said, it will have some impact on you, and as the World Bank report blog that I just read, they indicated that crime and violence impacts every facet, including the economic development of a country. It affects their GDP growth and all of that. So it's all hands on deck approach. We have to continue as a society to want to make the change. We have to think about these initiatives ourselves. As the caller said, the gangs have to come together to make this a reality of us living in a safe society. As I warned, possibility exists that we can be looked at very strong when we travel coming out of St. Kitts and Nevis. When our planes land, whether in the region or internationally, holders of passports from St. Kitts and Nevis, we're not looking at it from this perspective, but all of these issues will eventually come down hard on St. Kitts and Nevis when we talk about this issue of crime and violence. And as you heard there earlier, a number of reports from the press release, they've been discovering cocaine here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And, there's a growing concern that St. Kitts and Nevis may be a transshipment point, but the police have said that no evidence suggests that, but they've been seeing and making arrests in terms of people bringing cocaine into St. Kitts and Nevis and those who they would have found with it here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Nevertheless, it was really good being in your company. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Do go out and support the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots as they have 2 home games over this weekend. So, yes, do go cheer them on. Do give them your support. They won their opening game recently. Do stay tuned to the media, all facets of the media, to get your latest news, breaking news, and other information. Until next time, do enjoy and stay safe.